So I've been using Artstudio Pro on the iPad Pro for about the past year now for all of my personal and professional work. And while Artstudio Pro has been a fantastic program to work with, I have noticed that there are some things that could be improved, and recently Artstudio has updated to version 3.1 that includes 30 plus new features all added to Artstudio. This is a major update. It's the first major update in a while, and I'm here to give you my top 5 updates in Artstudio version 3.1. Now, before I get into this list, I would definitely urge you to go check out the notes for version 3.1 because there are many features that have been added to Artstudio that are just honestly really good. They're really necessary improvements, and they just really improve the overall quality of life in using the app and just basic functionality that seems like it should have been there before but wasn't, and now they've added a lot of new features. But anyway, let's get into the top 5. So the number 5 feature on our list might be really familiar to some of you if you're used to using Procreate, and that is multiple undos and redos when you hold 2 fingers down or 3 fingers down. So let me explain that a little bit more in case you have never used Procreate before and have never experienced this feature. So in most art apps, when you double tap or triple tap on your screen, it'll undo a stroke you had just done or some action you've done, or redo any of the steps you may have done. That's kind of a standard thing in most art apps nowadays. 2 taps for undo, 3 taps for redo. Well, in Procreate, you could hold your 2 fingers down and it would kind of, almost like in a reverse time-lapse way, undo very quickly multiple steps. And the reverse would happen when you held 3 fingers down. You hold 3 fingers down, it'll rapidly redo whatever steps are available in your clipboard or whatever it's called. But that feature was not available in Artstudio and still isn't available in many apps, but it's very convenient, and Artstudio has just added that to their gigantic list of awesome features. So hold 2 fingers down to undo multiple times, and 3 fingers down to redo multiple times in a very fast-forwarded way. And it's just a fantastic feature overall for both UI simplicity and for convenience of use and time. Now let's move on to number 4, and this is one of my favorites. I really enjoy using the top panel bar in Artstudio. It's where you can keep all of your different tool options, your favorite tools. You know, you can keep things like crop and shape and your lasso tool up there for quick access. You can just select them, use the tool immediately, and they're always up in that little dock for you to use. But one thing that was never available in Artstudio when you use that little dock were actions. And when I say actions, I mean something like going into view and horizontal flip or view vertical flip. Anything that takes multiple clicks to activate basically wasn't available in that top panel. Well, now that's changed. So now in Artstudio 3.1, you can actually select any of the 240 options in the menus to be set for a single button on the top of your toolbar. So one of my favorite options is to flip my canvas. Most artists flip their canvas constantly as they're working on digital pieces because it's a good way to get fresh eyes on a piece. But before, you would have to go into the menus and find the flip horizontal button. Well, now you can actually set that to a single button on the top toolbar, and that will always be available to you to click as much as you want. And that isn't only exclusive to the flip horizontal or flip vertical buttons. Like I said, there is 240 different actions you can set for a single button use. So if you, almost any menu option you can think of, you can set to a single button, which is absolutely fantastic. And if you tend to use any particular function that required multiple clicks to go through the menus, if you use any options like that on the regular, you'll now be able to do that much quicker and much more conveniently. So this is a fantastic, once again, for version 3.1, this is a fantastic time saver and a fantastic UI change. So I highly recommend checking that out in version 3.1. All right, number 3. Number 3, this is a big one. This is a really big one. We have finally got, for our number 3 spot, warp transform. So no more weird skew transforms, no more trying to size things and just see if you can scoot stuff in any sort of clunky way. You finally have warp transform where you can select different points in the transformation box and warp them to your heart's content. And this is a feature that has been wanted from many users for a super long time, and now we finally got it. So all you have to do is going to edit and transform, and you can find your warp transform right in those menu options. And it's super easy to get to. And to piggyback off of that, you could also set warp transform as a top menu item if that's something you're using all the time, just to give another example for that. But yep, warp transform is now available, and this is a big deal for version 3.1. So I can't wait to use it in my artwork. Instead of trying to try clunky ways to get things to warp slightly and kind of always failing at it, now you actually have official warp transform, and I can't wait to see what other artists do with it, and I can't wait to experience it myself when I need to use it. Now, number 2 is kind of a boring one, but it's very important. So I've actually combined sort of a 2-for-1 deal inside of our number 2 slot, but you'll understand why in a minute. It has everything to do with the layers panel, and the layers panel got a really big update, and it may not be the most exciting feature, but in all honesty, it takes our number 2 spot because of just the convenience of it. The convenience of it is really great. So for our number 2 spot, empty layers are now marked with an X. And this doesn't seem like a huge deal up front, like why empty layers marked with an X, like who cares? When you're just going in and doing minute things with layers, and you're trying to just like organize many layers, or maybe you're one of those people who uses 60 plus layers or so per piece you do, and you get very specific into layers, it's really convenient to know when a particular layer inside of your group might not have anything in it at all. And before, if you had to guess if your layer was empty, you pretty much had to either look at the thumbnail like really tiny to see if there were any pixels left in there that may be active, or you could just take your chances and delete the layer and see if anything disappears. But now they take the guesswork out of it in the layer icon, and they just slap a big X on there to let you know that, no, there's nothing in here. You can delete it and it's not going to affect your work at all. And it'll save a little bit of memory on your iPad, so it's a win-win. So like I said, this is a 2-for-1, so we're not done with our layer panel yet. On top of empty layers being visible with an X, now we also have opacity visibility inside of each one of the layer previews. So what that means is if you go into a layer and you adjust the opacity, it doesn't just adjust in like the little top scroll bar where you can see the percentage of the opacity. It will always be available to you to see inside of the layers panel directly under the name of your layer, which once again may not seem that important up front, but it's super convenient to know when you're going through doing work that may have multiple layers in it and you're not sure if a layer is at 100% opacity or not. And if it's not, you'll be able to know. Like say you're doing some line work or something like that, you've reduced the opacity of your sketch layer down, maybe you forget down the line and you forget that your layer is maybe at 50% opacity. Now they take the guesswork out of that. So once again, those 2 features weren't the most exciting, but in the grand scheme of things, they are very useful, and that's why that gets the number 2 spot on our list. And number one, this one is so exciting. Oh my God, this one is a big one. People have been asking for this for a long time, and we've gone through 4 awesome things so far, but really number 1 takes the cake, and I know that this is what everybody is going to be the most excited over. Although we've had so many awesome features previewed so far, this one is by far the biggest improvement for Artstudio that I have seen in a long time, and that is a navigator. So for those of you who may not be familiar with what a navigator is, if you've ever used Photoshop or Procreate or Clip Studio, pretty much any art app out there, you probably have come across a navigator at some point or another while making artwork in those programs. So what the navigator is a tiny window inside of a menu or inside of another window that gives you a preview of your entire canvas, no matter how zoomed in or out you are on the active work area. So what that means is if you're working on a portrait or a painting and you zoom in really close to get some super fine detail, you can take a look at your navigator and the navigator will give you the full view as if you were zoomed all the way out. And this can be useful for so many scenarios. So many artists find this useful, and it's just a fantastic tool. So it gives you a preview of what your artwork looks like when you take a step back or zoom out, so you can get an idea of your entire composition and how the piece will look to someone who is viewing the whole piece as it's meant to be presented, instead of super tiny zoomed in where you might be adding detail into your piece. So it's super useful, and the way you activate that is going into View and Reference. And inside of the reference view, you will see that there's an option for Canvas now. You click on Canvas, you get your little preview. You can adjust the size of it as well to a certain degree and place it wherever you want. It'll float until you click the little X in the top right. and it's just a fantastic tool, and that takes my #1 spot. And I'm sure if any other artists are making this list, it would probably take the #1 spot as well, because the Navigator is a super useful tool for basically any artist out there, whether you're a comic artist or an illustrator, or you do matte paintings or character design, anything. The reference view Navigator is a super useful tool, and once again takes the #1 spot, and it is a well-deserved update for version 3.1 of Artstudio. So guys, what are your favorite features from the new update in version 3.1 of Artstudio? If you use Artstudio, if you use it on the iPad, I would love to hear about your experience with it, with the update, with any new features that may be your favorites. What was your favorite one from this list? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, click like and maybe click subscribe and all that stuff. And if seeing my face here isn't enough for you and you'd like to experience this sort of content on another platform, I do stream live Monday through Friday starting at 11 a.m. Pacific time on twitch.tv/kagebonito. You can find the links to all that stuff in the description below. And if you'd like to support me further, I'm also on Patreon, where you can support me monthly and you get special rewards for being on that Patreon. And we also have merch and other things like that available in the links below, and any support really helps, and I appreciate all you guys. That being said, our lovely patrons who have already been supporting us are right here, and I can't thank you guys enough. You are seriously helping me out, and you're helping the channel out and the Twitch and just the dream of a little artist trying to make his way. So I can't appreciate you guys enough. And that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will catch you in the next one. And if you have any comments or questions about Artstudio or art in general, or any suggestions for future content, please leave them in the comments below and let me know what you thought. So I will see you guys in the next one. Have a great one. Peace. Bobby kind of looked like Beast Boy, not gonna lie. I'll take that. Am I that green? Am I Shrek? I need to paint myself green. Oh,